welcome to the Record Celtic podcast. It's been another thrilling, exciting, action-packed, news-packed week in the world of Celtic. Has it? Maybe not. Listen, the World Cup's on, so that's a nice distraction. But thankfully, I'm joined by McDonald and Graeme to discuss the huge amount of news that's been piling through this week in the last 7 days around Celtic. How are you boys?
Good, mate. Just catching my breath, dealing with all the transfer news at the minute.
It's hard to keep up, isn't it? How are you, Youngie? You all right? You be careful in this sunshine, big man.
Oh, definitely. Honestly, I've got a nice wee spot in the shade, mate. So we'll just try and be very careful when I get outside. A wee hat, a wee Panama hat as well, always helps me. So.
Panama hat, I like it. Well, I've not been my holidays yet, so I'm still with my holiday haircut. So I've got a big beehive bouffant hairdo for those who are not watching the video. But anyway, listen, we'll crack on. Let's get stuck in. I mean, and I'm not joking about things haven't been happening, but it is the case that there's not a lot that's changed in the last 7 days in terms of Celtic, in terms of recruitment, in terms of coaching staff, in terms of the chairman, the head of sport, all this kind of stuff. It's very quiet, and I think Celtic fans, don't you guys agree with me that they're starting to get a wee bit tetchy. That they've seen this movie before. They're a wee bit concerned. The time is ticking. Celtic are back for pre-season training the end of this week, and I think the fear is, and the question is in this podcast is are Celtic sleepwalking into this new campaign? What do you reckon?
I mean, how many times have we had this discussion before? It just seems as if we're having it year on year, pretty much over the last 5, 6, 7 years, maybe even longer. I think, like you say, Celtic fans are getting tetchy. Maybe that's just one way to describe it. I think they're getting extremely agitated. They have been over a number of years now, with the club's kind of moving at a snail's pace and the lack of conviction in the transfer market, especially kind of early doors. You look at title across the city at Rangers, they're getting their ducks in a row. They've got a new manager. They've got the managers. By the way, the managers even get a backroom staff in place. Who'd have thought that? Yeah. They've got Lawrence Shankland, probably the best striker in Scotland, in the door. And they're obviously there's talk about Ross McGregor coming in. Hearts as well, they're kind of moving to find replacements, about to appoint a new manager. They're spending money as well and bringing signings through. So, Hearts and Rangers are, they're making inroads for the new season. They're preparing, but at the minute, as I say, we'll probably touch upon it later on. Celtic are actually down 3 crucial members of the backroom team. Martin O'Neill doesn't take training, but as things stand, he could well be taking training on Friday. He's meant to be the figurehead that oversees it, and he leads. And Gavin Strachan was the one who led training for most of last season, supported by Sean Maloney and Mark Follering. But as things stand, Gavin Strachan's left for West Brom, and there's no agreement in sight with Maloney or Follering him. It's unnecessary chaos, I think, from Celtic, and they just never really seem to learn from their mistakes. I think there's been a lot of bold promises that have been made from Brian Wilson, who regular listeners know that, it might not be a popular opinion, but I've actually praised Brian Wilson. I think he's been a lot more forefront. You look at Michael Nicholson, the chief executive, I can't remember last time we heard from him, other than a pre-recorded Celtic TV interview. At least Brian Nicholson has been facing the cameras. He has been a bit more forthright. He has been sitting down with the club's channels and addressing issues like the end of, the final day against Hearts, defending the club.
Yeah, that's not. These guys need to sit down with the press. They need to sit down with the media. I mean, I know that we get a hard time, but sit in the club channel and see what you want to say. I mean, that Brian Wilson, I think, is a good guy. I think you're right. He's a politician. That Hearts thing was an absolute masterstroke in diversion and distraction. I mean, it was interesting stuff, but didn't no meat in the bone of what's actually going on at Celtic. They need to sit down in front of the people who are asking the questions.
Yeah, exactly. So as I was going to say that, I was going to counter that by saying, so while he does deserve at least a bit of credit for doing that, he has also delivered a lot of kind of bold promises in that time as well. I'm just looking at some of them. The club have promised to learn from the mistakes for last season, to improve recruitment and invest in analytics. In a minute, there's not even a head of recruitment, and there's been no players that have been signed, and we're ticking closer to, as I say, the club returning for pre-season on Friday. They said there's going to be a boardroom refreshment. As far as I can see, Tom Allison is the only member that's left in the last 3-4 months. We've got an interim chairman, as we mentioned there, and Brian Wilson. Is he going to be the full-time chairman? What's happening there? Chairman's a pretty important role at a football club. You look at the stadium as well. I think a lot of fans years ago, I think, sent out a fan survey to season ticket holders, and they eventually released the results at some point last season. And one of the main things was about upgrading various facilities in the stadium. Have they acted on those results? I don't think so. And also, they've given Martin O'Neill, they've promised to give Martin O'Neill the best possible chance going into the next season, the new season. But as I say, there's no backroom staff. So I think there just needs to be, they need to get a move on, quite frankly. I know it's still early days, it's still only the 24th of June, but they really need to get a move on, because it's as things stand, there's absolutely no way that Celtic are going into this season is in the best possible conditions as it should be. In the minute, I think the priority should be trying to kind of build bridges with the fan base as well. The Green Brigade, all the ultras, even a kind of large section of the fan base were spent most of last season protesting against the board. This was a real opportunity. This summer is a real opportunity for the board to make amends and get fans back on side by moving swiftly, by showing a bit of conviction in the transfer market and across all areas of the club. But at the minute, they've not kind of lived up to the word yet.
There's zero margin there.
Sorry, Graeme. Is that the problem? Listen, it is only June 24th. I mean, Ange probably arrived in June 10. His first signing was in August the 1st. That summer of massive upheaval. So there is time. But it's a problem, the fact that because the last season was a bit of a kind of survival mode, wasn't it, for the whole club? It was just get by. There's no manager, a permanent manager. There wasn't a chairman. There wasn't a head of recruitment. Just get by that season. And I think people maybe thought that when the season finished, that first week after the season finished, that, all right, it finished with a massive high with a double. But you think that first week, they would say, right, okay, the last 6 months, we've been doing this, and this. Here we go. We haven't been sitting doing nothing since January. We knew all these problems, and here's the solutions. Bump, bump, bump. But then 4 weeks in the line, and there's nothing. There's nothing. Is that? I mean, and there is time to fix the squad and recruit players and all that and get these things done. But is that the problem, Graeme? Is it the fact that people maybe thought that the Ducks would be in a row on June the 1st rather than heading towards July the 1st?
No, that's bang on, and that is, there was that feeling where, like, the relationship between fans and the club, you lash out the ones you love, don't you? And even if the current custodians of the club, if they could show, like, how Brian Wilson intimated that there will be change, but it's probably worse to promise change and then not deliver it. So for Celtic fans to place their faith, that kind of last 6 weeks of the season, it was back to the old Celtic. Everyone was on the same page. Kind of longer term resentment was put to the side. But you're right. See the fact that even the stuff comes now, or the big vision gets mapped out, it just feels a bit hollow, because there was this opportunity to really do what they've not been doing. So what Brian Wilson's promised about good communications, that should have been instantaneous. It should have been straight after the cup final, a double winning season, an unlikely double winning season. Even the pursuit with Robbie Keane in the mix, and Martin O'Neill, what's going on with Maloney and Fotheringham, the transfer window as well. Like, you just see clubs are doing the transfer window differently to the way Celtic. We know that Martin O'Neill have a different profile of player, but there's just this. It just feels that it's the same movie, isn't it? And they're back here again, and players will be linked, and then it will turn out that it's other teams move quicker, and I think that's an issue. Listen, not every player that Celtic speak to, but the big knock on them's the kind of CIA kind of claim that they're monitoring and keeping tabs, and they're doing the job of a sleuth to try and keep an eye on what comes next in the transfer window. But I do feel that fans probably place their faith in the board, a board that they've probably not placed their faith in much at the end of the season. And it's not delivered, and there's no margin for error here. There's zero. They managed to get through last season with a manager with so much nous and understanding of how to win, but half of that squad isn't fit for purpose. A batch of the best players are kind of in line to be the next to go, and just funny that you mentioned the Ange season as well. That is just lightning in a bottle of, after the Eddie Howe, we all know how it happened. This kind of cult of personality comes in and delivers in the only way he can as well. That a style of football, the transfers were spot on, and those players for the first couple of windows, Ange, are still the ones that are kind of at the forefront now. I think there's so many reasons to be concerned, and I think Celtic fans are, and rightfully so.
Well, I think that's the thing, that the communication and the narratives that are allowed to kind of rumble on this. I think that's a problem. They don't control a narrative. I mean, I know for a fact, I'm speaking privately to a few guys behind the scenes, there are things going on at Celtic, albeit very slowly, but they need to let people know that these things are going on, because at the moment it looks like nothing's happening. And I know that's not the case, but that's the perception, and that's why they need to have a more front-facing attitude and more dialogue with punters. I mean, I think they also could have been doing, even for PR purposes, like having a few players lined up on pre-contracts and all this kind of stuff, getting guys lined up to be signed, starting the first day in pre-season, these kind of things. I know it's maybe not that big a deal in the grand scheme, but it just looks like a club that's on the front foot. At the moment, it just still looks like a club who's just meandering along. We talked about the coaching staff, and I think we all expect Sean Maloney and Mark Fothergill to be back in the building and taking training on Friday and beyond. Gavin Strachan has obviously departed. I wanted to talk about Gavin. What do we think his perception of his time at Celtic? And I think he got a bit of a raw deal, Gavin Strachan. I think his first season was unlucky. He came in obviously during the COVID season, and people would latch on to he's the iPad guy and all that. He's the laptop Gavin and all that. Then he won, but since then they've had 3 doubles and a treble, and he's been on the coaching staff. So what do you think his impact was Celtic, and what will the loss be to Celtic?
Well, I think he leaves as one of the most decorated, probably, Celtic coaches of all time. I think I was counting up his medals the other day, and I think he won 11 major honours during his time at Celtic. And like you say, there was, I think he was nicknamed Laptop Boy or Laptop Gav during that wretched COVID season. But he didn't have to turn things around. I think he worked under Neil Lennon, Neil Lennon, Ange Postecoglou, Brendan Rodgers, Wilfred Nancy, and of course Martin O'Neill. So he worked under 5 different managers, and speaking to a few players over the years, they have nothing but great words to say about him. And you see the reaction to Celtic's post on social media yesterday confirming that he was out away as well. A lot of players were quick to pay tribute to him. I think Dyson Maeda was among them as well. So I think he's a crucial member of that backroom staff that, fans won't see what he does day to day, but unless they replace him, he's going to leave a massive void there. And I think he did totally change perception because a lot of, if you were listening to fans, the board were to bow down to the fan demands in that COVID season. Gavin Strachan would have been out the door within his first 3 or 4 months in the job, but he managed to stay on, and as I say, he was a real crucial clog in some of the most successful seasons in Celtic's history. So I think he leaves definitely with everyone at the club's best wishes, and I think he leaves with his reputation intact, and I think he'll be a massive loss. And we talk about Sean Maloney and Mark Fothergill, but Celtic really need to find a replacement for Gavin Strachan as well, because I remember Sean Maloney saying last season that it was Gavin Strachan who was the one that was mainly leading the training sessions along with Steve McManus. So unless there's a promotion within, Celtic are going to have to look for a new first team coach.
It was unfortunate as well, Graeme, wasn't it, that a lot of Celtic fans think that especially with Dermot Desmond at the top of the tree, he has a kind of close kind of band of people who he relies on and he gives jobs to. He brings back Gordon Strachan to do the name of the famous club. What do you call it? What was it called? The Strachan Inquiry thing into the COVID season. Remember that inquest, the Strachan inquest, and then you get Gavin also get a job at the club. You see, obviously Peter Lawwell and obviously his son get a job in the coaching thing, and you think, I think a lot of Celtic fans think that there's a kind of a nepotism going on at Celtic Park with certain jobs for certain boys and all that stuff. And I think that's grossly unfair on Gavin, because I think he was a coach in his own merit, and I think he did a really good job. I remember watching him as a player. He was actually a player for Hartlepool United, and I worked down in England, in the North East. Back in his day, he had a few injury problems, and he was actually at one point he was injured. He was threatening to become a journalist. I think he made the right decision by being a coach rather than a journalist. I'm sure he earned more money being a coach, that's for sure. But I think that didn't help him, did it, Graeme? That kind of stuff. He's always kind of stuck to him, I think, a bit.
No, I remember his BBC blog that he had. That was funny, actually. You brought that up. That's a kind of blast of the past. But the nepotism claims of exactly what I was going to say, Mick, was, and I think it kind of sums up Celtic, where you could turn it the other way, where people would go, or let's say people within Celtic go, listen, it's not jobs to the boys because he's a very talented guy, but it just shows the kind of small network that they operate from. But I think Gavin Strachan should be immune from that, because, like Ryan, the stuff I've heard over the years is that he's a thoroughly decent coach. Again, I know Celtic get tired of this kind of bowling club mentality, that it's familiar faces that kind of are in the club, and it's a kind of private members in some way. But no, I think he's a good guy, like very well respected. If you're looking at it the other way, it may be quite interesting that he's decided to move on as well, that maybe everything's got a shelf life. Maybe he sees, well, he obviously does see a good opportunity down at West Brom, but maybe it tells you about his view of where Celtic are and what's coming down the line in terms of just maybe he's reached his limits. But no, he was very well respected and a good operator. And I think that, again, it's maybe like it's a case of the multiple exits as well, where if you take just a couple of the players that are probably likely to go, familiar coaching staff, without a big revolution as of yet, it could be a challenging season. It might be a kind of precursor to what's to come.
Yeah, I mean, listen, joking aside, Celtic, you look at a modern thinking football club at this point in time would have your manager stroke head coach, your assistant manager, your first team coach, your set piece coach, your offensive and defensive, whatever you want to call it, specialists, your fitness coaches, your analysts, your recruitment chief, your technical director. Celtic don't seem to have these positions filled at this point in time. I mean, you're talking about Jamestown Analytics. I mean, Celtic are using Dennistown Analytics right now, and so these are positions that have to be filled, and at the moment they aren't operational. So you get the fact. I mean, McSarkin believing is listen. He could be the number 3 coach leaves, and any day of the week it's a kind of meanwhile. But at Celtic, it's like you say, Graeme, it's another hole in an already slab of Edam cheese that is the Celtic kind of staff right now. Isn't it?
100%.
And that's not. I mean, I don't know you guys. That's Celtic are not acting like a modern football club right now. I mean, they might get their act together sharpish, but they're going to have to, because at the moment they're not. And the thing is that these holes could get even bigger, because you're looking at certain players who are on the staff just now and who have been big players last year, and you think beyond, but could be heading out the door. I mean, you're watching the World Cup here, boys. Alistair Johnston's performance for Canada, brilliant so far. Arnie Engels, who isn't in the World Cup, but he's obviously highly rated. He's now got a queue of clubs after him in England and abroad. Is it time? I mean, the big money bid come in. Are these guys going?
I think Arnie Engels is definitely out the door. I think £25 million if Celtic can get that fee that they rejected from Nottingham Forest in January. I think there's multiple clubs now that are queuing up for him. And, you might even get more than £25 million. You might get closer to £30 million if a kind of bidding war erupts. So there's some big clubs circling now. Obviously, Nottingham Forest are about to rake in upwards of £113 million for Elliot Anderson as well. So they're going to have cash to splash as well. And I think probably a sweetener for Arnie Engels in January. Martin O'Neill made it clear. I remember being in a press conference with you, Mick, and he made it clear that he didn't want to sell him. I think he was actually, when we asked him the question, I'm pretty sure he was surprised to hear that Forest actually bid for him. But he made it clear that it wasn't for sale. And, fair play to the Celtic board. They get a lot of stick at times, rightly so, as we've discussed. But they stuck to their guns and rejected a real lucrative offer. And if you were to read the reaction in social media, a lot of fans were calling them crazy. They were saying, take the cash and run. But Arnie Engels made a significant impact when he returned from injury for the end of season running. He was a real upgrade in that engine room. And I think what's lost is that a lot of the work that he does off the ball as well as on it. He's so technically gifted. He's the best set piece taker at the club. But the amount of work rate that he does off the ball, the amount of, he's always seems to be in the right position at the right time in terms of intercepting passes or getting back to clear balls. I remember there was a brilliant interception. I think it was against Rangers when the score was at 2-1, and he got back and cleared the ball. I think it was heading in Chimiti's direction, It was a vital interception, otherwise Rangers would have probably equalised. So these are the kind of small things that maybe go unnoticed, but in the age of analytics and football and recruitment, they won't go unnoticed at various football clubs, which is why he is so sought after. So I think he's going to be a massive miss, because I do think he will go. I think there's probably a gentleman's agreement there with Martin Neal and Arnie Engels that if a big offer does come in, they'll be allowed to leave. The same goes with Daizen Maeda. He's in the final year of his contract. I asked Martin Neal the question last season if he's going to sign a new deal. Basically said it's not going to happen, and Maeda will go with his best wishes. And you can't, look at the impact he made in the last 7 games. I think it was 9 goals in 7 games. He's now a modern day great, and he deserves to, after 4.5 years in Glasgow, he deserves to move on and get a big contract and play in that bigger, one of the top 5 leagues as he's always dreamed of doing. So he'll move on. Benjamin Negron, if he can get upwards of £15 million, I think Celtic are probably going to have to take it. You look at, was that maybe a purple patch? I know he was kind of prolific earlier in his career, Benjamin Negron, but at 21 goals, he's going to be able to eclipse that next season, go on to the next level. I'm not so sure. I think Celtic will need to look at upgrading in the middle of the park anyway. There's going to be so many exits with Paulo Bernardo, Rio Hatate, Arnie Engels, as we mentioned as well. Callum McGregor needs a bit of help there. So I think if you can get upwards of £15 million from Benjamin Negron, you take it. One guy who Mick mentioned I wouldn't be letting go is Alistair Johnston. To me, I think Alistair's under contract until 2029, I believe. He missed a season through injury, and you saw the difference he made when he came back. He was outstanding, and he's one of the top right backs at World Cup just now. I think Alistair Johnston, I think it would be great if it's in Celtic's best interest, if they could keep him for another year. His value is not going to plummet. If anything, it's only going to go up. And, with the Champions League qualifiers coming up as well, I think, a lot of people were clamouring to sign Julian Araujo, bring him back. But if you have to compare Julian Araujo to Alistair Johnston, I don't think there's any debate. I think Alistair Johnston's by far the superior player there, and he is a genuine top talent. And I think Celtic should do everything they can to retain his services, because they're going to rake in a lot of money this summer. And Alistair Johnston's even one guy that's been tipped as a potential captain one day. But he's one player that I wouldn't be letting go.
The problem is the market will dictate it though. He's 27, he turns 28, I think in October maybe, or later, certainly this season, this coming season he'll turn 28. His value probably is going to be, after a World Cup, at its highest point. So if Celtic are functioning like a proper football club, they should be prepared for that eventuality and ready to bring in somebody to replace him. That's where it all falls down, unfortunately. Celtic in the last kind of 18 months, 2 years in the windows, they haven't had these contingencies in place to be able to sell their best talents at the right time, because it is the right time to sell them. I know he's injured last season, but Alistair Johnston came in the back of a World Cup and pressing. That's when you cash in. But Celtic, what is going to be left? You're talking Negron going as well. What's the Celtic midfield going to be next season as it stands then? If Hatate, Engels, Bernardo all go, and Negron goes after the World Cup, you've got Callum McGregor and Luke McCowan, and that's it. Who's playing the middle of the park?
Oh, I know. It's when you put it like that, I think Negron's an interesting one. I think he's maybe different for Engels and Johnston, because I feel the same as you were saying there, Mick. I think Engels' time is now to go. I think that's 2 years. He is a talented player. Obviously, the underlying numbers are impressive. The fact you've got all these teams in from this analytics, I hear it's getting quite popular these days. And Alistair Johnston as well. I felt the way he plays a can. Exactly, but I don't know if you've felt the same. But I don't think Alistair Johnston was ever better for Celtic when he was linking up with Kuhn down the right. Just the way he does those kind of underlaps, and it looks like he's going inside outside for Kai. It looks brilliant, and I think probably for him, just from his own personal point, I think probably the right time is now, just his own career progression. I saw when he was linked with Fulham over the weekend, there's a few people saying, you can do better than Fulham, but I don't think Fulham's the worst move for a player sometimes. It's London, good wages. I think as well, I think it'd be a decent move, but Negron's the interesting one, because I think anyone who's watched him regularly can see the flaws in his game, and if you can bring an interested party to the table that maybe will pay good money for him, I think you need to admit that he is what he is. Where Engels is a player who sometimes does more than meets the eye in terms of numbers, I think Negron's numbers outperform his actual output for the team. But there's got to be this, if nothing else, has got to be the year they find a number 6, like a proper number 6. Cal McGregor, for all his positives. I don't think he cannot run that position the way he previously did. And I actually think it's the kind of you could reimagine the midfield. You could try it with 2 at the base of the midfield. You could do so. That's the way O'Neill played with Lennon and Lambert. There's maybe an option for that. I don't know if that's a 3-5-2 thing, but you could maybe look at how that midfield works. But Miguel Chaiwa at Hibs, he's been linked. I think they're going to put a pretty sizable fee on him, but I really like him. I think he's an excellent player. And it's that Kate Bassett that was linked previously seemed to fit the mould of what they're looking for, but the midfield needs plenty. I think Oxlade-Chamberlain as well will pick up that 1 year option. He didn't play too much minutes in the final couple of games, so I think that's a massive area of need. And Celtic's midfield has been a strength of the recent success, and it needs to be again, but it's going to need major work this summer. Major work.
Can I just interject? So
again, Ryan. He's nicked my segues again.
Oh.
He does it every week. He keeps reading my notes, and he goes, nick in the head of the game, and just nick in with the topic.
Let me just respond to a point, by the way. So on Alistair Johnston, I get the monetary argument, totally get that. And you talk about his World Cup stock and how it'll be rising at the minute. Yep, can't deny that. But you talk about the players that Celtic are shipping out, the big assets like Daiser Maeda, Arne Engels, Benjamin Negron. I mean, you look at even fringe players, Rio Atati, guys like he'll probably end up, what you can probably command in about around £4 or £5 million as well. So Celtic could end up paying banking upwards of £40 million this summer, and that's without even thinking about Alistair Johnston. I think you look at the core group of players that you need at the club, and I think Alistair Johnston is one of them. I don't think that you can sell so many top players in the same window and trust that Celtic are going to find suitable replacements for each position. I just don't think you can do that. If Celtic can, if they can reach a gentleman's agreement with Alistair Johnston, I get that he will have ambitions to move to a bigger league as well. But if they can come to some sort of agreement that this is going to be your final year and you can leave with our blessings next summer, and I think that's something that should be looked at. As I mentioned, they look at a core group of players. You've not really got a spine of this team anymore, apart from central defence. You've got Cameron Carter-Vickers, who, by the way, might not be first choice next season because he has struggled with injuries so much. So you're going to be able to rely upon him for the next 38 Premiership games, a full Premiership campaign. I'm not so sure. You've got a goalkeeper position where there's question marks over whether Sinisal is going to be number one. Callum McGregor, as I mentioned there, is getting older. He's 33. And the midfield, it can be a completely brand new midfield. Same way up front. There's going to be a new striker coming in and potential 2 new wingers. So you need guys like Liam Scales, who, he might be underrated by Celtic fans, but he's a favourite of Martin O'Neill's, and rightly so. He's now a born winner at Celtic. You need guys like Luke McCowan who know the club. Yeah, he's a useful squad player. He's just signed a new contract. James Forrest, the most decorated player in Celtic's history. Cal McGregor, the captain. And you need guys like Alistair Johnston, who, by the way, won a treble in his first season at Celtic as well, and is no nothing but winning at Celtic. I think you need guys like that in the dressing room, and I think that's what separates Celtic from the likes of Hearts and Rangers, is that they've got guys like that in the dressing room. So I wouldn't be in a rush to sell them. And especially in Alistair Johnston's case, I just feel as if they could really do with keeping him for another year.
The only problem is with that is that, unfortunately, realistically, Celtic have seen what happens when you keep guys be against their will, almost. I mean, Hatate has probably never been the same since he kind of didn't leave maybe 2 summers ago. Dyson Maeda, half of last season, seemed to be feeling the effects of missing out his move. You're looking at Alistair Johnston. If Alistair Johnston offered $75,000 a week in the Premier League in England, and Celtic said to him, you need to stay another year, that's going to be a problem, because Alistair Johnston has watched guys like himself, missed a year through injury. He watched Jota, whose career could, for all we know, it could be in the balance. Don't know when he's coming back. So Alistair Johnston saying to him, play for another year, then you'll get a big move to England. There's no guarantees that will come about again. So if you're getting offered £20 million for a fullback and it's $75,000 a week wages, you cannot let that. You cannot stand in his way, whether or not you want to or not. I mean, this is the problem that Celtic are going to be in. They've been here before. It happened back in the year of the COVID season. They kept guys against their will for too long, and it backfired. If these guys are offered life-changing sums of money and opportunities at that level, you cannot stand in their way. If it's 20 million quid and that kind of money, the whole model falls down if you don't sell them. The whole point of them being there is to play well, win trophies, and be sold for that kind of money. If you say you can't be sold because we're not working properly as a recruitment club, so we need to keep you for an extra year, so you need to stay. Well, we've seen what happens. We've seen what happens to players that stay too long and don't get their moves. It doesn't work out that way. Whether it's subconsciously or consciously, they're demotivated, they go off the boil. It's just the nature of life. It's human nature. So whether or not Celtic want to keep or not, I think it's immaterial. I think you'd have to let them go if that kind of money come in. And if it doesn't work out, it's their own fault for not having a proper recruitment strategy behind it. So and by the way, you're talking about other players. I mean, we're still not even addressed the elephant in the room. Callum McGregor could go this summer still. I mean, you're talking. Can you imagine Celtic also losing Callum McGregor on top of all these players? So the only good thing about the team and the squad from the last 12 months, all of them have out the door practically. What's
your gut feeling, Matt? Do you think he could go?
I think he'll stay. I think he will stay. The only thing is that he said the thing to us at the end of last season when he was talking about the kind of will he go, will he stay? He said, if the club match their ambition, then I'll stay. At this point in time, Celtic are not meeting his ambition. So I wouldn't be surprised if he is thinking now, you know what, let's see what happens in the next few weeks. Get the finger out, start building this team again for this Champions League qualifier. If not, I'm going to go and make some money somewhere else because I'm not carrying this team because he's just turned 33 2 weeks ago, Callum McGregor. And at this point in time, the team was getting built round about him again. He's going to need to play another 55 games next season and drag a new look team, a whole new look midfield. If I'm Callum McGregor, I'm thinking, you know what? I'm too old for this nonsense. I've been doing this for years. I'm going to go make a few quid in a bit of sunshine somewhere and wish you all the best, and I'll leave on a high. So I wouldn't. I mean, I think he might. I don't think he will. I think he's that kind of character. So we got to know him through the years, and he is. He loves being Celtic captain. He knows his role. He relishes taking that role, but it's a lot on his shoulders. And at this point in time, Celtic are going to need him again because they're not going to. And you're talking about number 6. They're not going to replace Callum McGregor when he's at the club. If he's
but that's
there,
what a club would do, wouldn't it? That's what a forward-thinking club because.
He's back up saying.
But McGregor, I feel quite strongly about this as well. And sometimes when I've been on I sound like I'm kind of down on McGregor, and it's not like that. It's the fact that Angie's fully functioning midfield, the kind of swashbuckling Celtic, probably not even like Abelgard that he always wanted to try and bring. And I know, but was that the name? I think did I give it a good go?
Yeah.
Remember that was the deepest recess of my mind. But Beaton was prominent the first year as well. I think there's this element where. The older Cal McGregor role where he was more advanced, he's probably one up now in the midfield. I think that for Celtic to make genuine progress, the reason they come apart in the Champions League playoffs is because of lack of forward planning. But also when they're there, they've got to reimagine how they set up as well. Sometimes we've all watched these Celtic games in Europe away, some tidy passing, and it's just the movement for these midfielders that are a level above. There's got to be a way to mitigate that. And I think they actually owe it to Cal McGregor to try and find that player that maybe makes his life easier, not just someone to join him in the mix, maybe a player that allows him to kind of his role to adjust. As the guy's played more football than anyone over the past 10 years. And that again comes down to a club looking at him, speaking to him maybe and saying, listen, we want you about, you're a club legend, you're vital to us, but here's the way we're going to go. And I think there is a way to do that. And I think they actually are letting him down by not evolving as a team to kind of get the best of him moving forward.
I know what Ryan's going to say here. He wants a Vinnie Jones in there. He wants a 6'4" monster in there.
I've been saying this for years.
Snarling beast in the middle of the park.
A bulldozer in the middle of the park. I think that's what Celtic been crying out for, especially at the elite level in the Champions League. It's just they've been missing that since Victor Wanyama left the club. It baffles me that they've never went for a real monster in the middle of the park. And Ilka Wanyama, and I think that's something that Martin O'Neill. I've got a feeling that Martin O'Neill will target that type of profile of player this summer.
Well, that is something I think. Well, when the signings start arriving, which you've got to assume at some point they're going to start arriving. I think we've talked about this before. I think there will be some big lumps coming in. I think he wants a bit of physicality, but in terms of where the weight goes on for the new arrivals. But listen, we'll wrap it up there. So there's the boys are back for pre-season, aren't they? Is it Friday? I think some of them are going to be checking in. I'm not sure there's enough players for a game of 5-a-sides at the moment, is there? Never mind 2 teams. It's poor Martin standing with his stopwatch himself. But listen, we'll keep it tabs on here. You can always keep tuned into Record Sport for all the info as well. But thanks for watching. Leave your comments as always. They're always gratefully received. Even if he's slagging us off, it's all right. It's all good fun. Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Graeme.
Right, cheers, Mick. Enjoy your holidays.
I may get my hair cut, then my holidays. I'll see you get back, and there'll be 15 new signings, whole new coaching staff, and a new tier built on the South Stand. We can talk about that in the July podcast. Right, thanks again, folks. See you later on.